everyone, it's Sevi. Kuki Shinobu released late into the Inazuma version, and even though she was our first Electro healer, she didn't seem to have a well-defined place or strength at first. But with the arrival of Dendro, her kit now makes a lot more sense, matching players' speculations that it was likely designed to capitalize on Dendro reactions. This video will walk you through how to play and build Kuki to make her shine with Dendro teams. If you're not as familiar with the basics of her kit yet, you can check out the full guide I made of her during her first release. I'll be focusing mainly on her new Dendro synergies here. Two reaction playstyles have been added, Hyperbloom and Aggravate, that have given her a huge improvement with team building options. Let's start with the Hyperbloom Kuki playstyle, her more popular new build. Kuki is an efficient and convenient Hyperbloom trigger for a couple of reasons. She fulfills two important functions in a Hyperbloom team, the trigger and the healer. This dual role consolidation allows you more flexibility with her teammates, particularly letting you slot in more offensive party members as she takes care of your team's survival. As the Hyperbloom trigger, her Electro application is off-field and mobile, so you can worry less about positioning your abilities, and it makes her fit perfectly in a quick swap off-field playstyle. On top of being mobile, it also covers a good wide area around you for hyperblooming the cores you generate. Being the trigger means stacking EM on her for maximum hyperbloom damage, but what's incredibly convenient for her dual role is that EM not only helps her deal higher reaction damage, but it also contributes to her heal scaling. While her healing primarily scales on HP, she has her A4 passive talent which converts her EM into additional healing. All this means is that the way you build her is very streamlined, and you don't really have to worry about split scaling affecting her dual role. In my opinion, I think that points to good character design. It was somewhat unclear when she first released, but now I think the cohesiveness of her kit shows. As for building her, she's relatively simple and cheap. She only needs full EM main stats and substats to increase her Hyperbloom damage, and since her Electro application is in her skill, she also has no ER requirements to think about. And for substats, EM and HP are all you're looking for. While EM is preferable, HP still contributes to her healing, so those roles aren't wasted. You can start out with no set bonuses and prioritize getting EM main stats, but eventually getting a two-piece combo of either Wanderers or Gilded Dreams or both helps squeeze in extra EM. If you do want the highest possible ceiling, the 4-piece Gilded Dream set is your end goal. However, I do want to make it clear that the difference with just putting on a double 2-piece EM set versus a 4-piece Gilded Dreams isn't exactly far from each other. Let's compare the total EM we can get. At best, a 4-piece Gilded Dreams with no Electro teammates has 70 EM more than the 2-piece combo, which is about 3 to 4 substat rolls. You can potentially get those rolls or even more on the 2-piece combos, which makes it equalize or even outperform the 4-piece Gilded Dreams. Simply put, you don't have to obsess about getting the full Gilded Dreams set, as your resin might be better spent elsewhere. As for the weapons, there are only 3 weapons to recommend, representing all rarity options. The 3-star option is the Dark Iron Sword, the 4-star is Iron Sting, and the Freedom Sworn is her premium 5-star choice. Clearly, you're getting more EM and better effects as you move up the rarity list. You might be wondering about the Alley Flash, which technically gives some EM. However, it is pretty low, and if you're not aware, the damage bonus buff does not affect Hyperbloom damage. Even the 3-star Dark Iron Sword would be a better choice. For her talent levels, you really only need to level up her skill for improving her healing. Level up Kuki to 90 for maximum reaction damage, since Hyperbloom damage also scales on character level. The most relevant constellation for a Hyperbloom Kuki build would be her C2, which increases her skill duration by 3 seconds. It's not necessary, but it is a quality of life improvement for her Electro application uptime. Now on how to create her team comps. Hyperbloom teams require a Dendro, Hydro, and Electro with a 4th flex slot. Dendro Traveler and Kole are the only viable Dendro teammates for Hyperbloom Kuki. Generally speaking, Dendro Traveler is the more convenient and better option. While Kole works, her Dendro application has a smaller area and shorter duration than the Travelers. Hopefully though, we'll get better Dendro applicator teammates. With Nahida coming along, fingers crossed that she'll be a viable teammate as well. The team's Dendro unit will want to hold a 4-piece Deepwood if no one else on the team is, to shred enemy Dendro resistance. Next, you need a Hydro Hydro teammate. This slot is flexible enough that each Hydro unit will have their own pros and cons. Xingqiu has defensive utilities while contributing a lot of off-field damage and Hydro application. Yelan is very similar but without the defensive utilities. Characters like Ayato, Kokomi, Barbara can at least provide off-field Hydro application, but you'll want to use them on-field at some point in your rotations to apply more Hydro. Candace also has decent synergy to give team-wide Hydro application. Child also works to a good extent, while contributing a lot of his personal on-field Hydro damage, especially against enemy mobs thanks to his quadratic scaling damage. And Mona is the least synergistic Hydro due to her having very low Hydro application uptime. Finally, we have the fourth slot, which is also flexible enough so long as the unit doesn't steal or interrupt with Hyperblooms. You can choose an Animo unit for crowd control, swirls, and some can give buffs, Sucrose especially with her EM sharing. The Animo unit might trigger some Hyperblooms too, and this can cause an issue of inconsistent ownership of their reactions. But if you've built them with a full EM build anyway, then it should at least have close or similar damage to if Kuki were triggering the Hyperbloom. There's also Cryo units for the flex slot who can turn the team into a freeze Hyperbloom team for crowd control and some cryo damage. Geo units don't interrupt the reactions that much, so there are choices among them too. Zhongli gives top comfort while being an on-field driver and Dendro resistance shredder. Albedo is a decent alternative for being another off-field damage source, triggering constant crystallized shields and giving an EM buff with his burst. And finally, if you want another Electro unit, Beidou is the only viable Electro teammate since her burst does not steal ownership of Hyperblooms. She can then act as another off-field damage source while also providing defensive utilities with her damage reduction and interruption resistance.
Happy to apply. New punching today.
Gotcha. Here comes the catch. Stand clear. Enhanced animal modules. Dead with me. Animal test 6308. I'll settle this. Germinate! I'm getting sick of this game.
Things are about to get tight.
A duplicate Lego Essence Swirl Mark II. Dissipate. Scatter.
Quietly now. Come into.
Ha! Spring forth.
Mind the deluge.
Dissipate.
Moment of birth.
Propagate.
Cascade.
Lightning Purify.
Kamisato Arc. Suiyu.
Dead with me.
Feel this ancient power.
Rain outlines your fate. Witness the power of Guwa. Punishment. Scatter. Spring forth. Dissipate.
Let me weave you a verse. Rain outlines your fate.
Shiver. Scatter. Germinate. You can't run.
Now that we've covered her Hyperbloom build tips, let's move to Kuki's less popular but interesting Aggravate playstyle. She's not the first Electro character that comes to mind when you think of Aggravate. Other Electro DPSs like Keqing or Fischl are cited as benefiting the most. Kuki, by contrast, is not exactly the best for it. Still, Aggravate is a big boost to her raw Electro damage, considering her own damage multipliers are on the lower side. Kuki's main source of aggravates is from her burst, since it applies Electro several times in a short window of time. You can get a maximum of 5 aggravates on her burst alone very quickly. It being an AoE ability is also very good against enemy mobs by afflicting them all with Quicken and grouping them together for Kuki's burst. Her Constellations also help a bit by adding more aggravate potential, though they aren't necessary for you to start enjoying this build. C1 is a nice quality of life boost since it makes her burst AoE considerably larger, letting you catch more enemies to aggravate if they're too spread around. C2 adds one more instance of aggravate by increasing her skill uptime. This is minor, but at least it adds more healing uptime. Her C4 can also aggravate and be procced by any teammate under her skill, which adds 3 more aggravate procs in one skill duration. And while C6 looks like it gives a fair amount of EM, the chances of that proccing will range from almost never to every 60 seconds at best due to the conditions needed. Either way, it's very minor and you'd want to protect her to prevent her HP reaching this low in the first place. For talents, level up her burst to at least have higher base multipliers and her skill. So even if you build her for aggravate, she's still doing her function of healing, albeit not as effectively as a dedicated healer build. At least slotting her in an aggravate team as a healer isn't as worse for your team DPS, and it makes her a somewhat okay source of damage with enough investment. Building her as a decent aggravate source will take some investment in offensive stats. EM is definitely still an asset here as that boosts aggravate damage, but remember that aggravate also benefits from damage bonuses and crit stats. Go for a crit circlet and electro damage goblet, and EM or HP sands. Between an HP and EM sands, the difference is small enough that you'd rather just go with the better substats. An HP sands will help benefit Kuki's personal survivability by having more HP to work with. However, if you have trouble hitting her ER requirements through substats or weapons, an ER Sans is also possible. Remember, you're relying on her burst to get those fast aggravates, so she will need adequate energy recharge. With Fischl being a great battery, Kuki's ER will land in the 140 to 160% range, but with Electro teammates that generate less particles, Kuki's ER needs can reach around 180%. If she becomes the only Electro unit in a Quicken team, her ER will be upwards of 200%. These energy needs are adjustable depending on how many particles your enemies provide, fav users in your team, and so on. Customize it according to your own factors. Once her ER has been addressed, other desired substats include crit, EM, or HP. Then for artifacts, she has several best full set options. There's Gilded Dreams, mainly for the EM boost since the attack buff won't do much for her, and the EM contributes to her healing whereas the other full sets don't. There's Thunder Soother, which gives a large damage bonus on electro affected enemies. On an aggravate team, this damage bonus will be active for the most part. The Emblem of Severed Fate helps address her ER stat, which Kuki needs, and gives her burst damage bonus where her damage mainly comes from anyway. The Noblesse set can result in lower personal damage for Kuki, but it buffs your teammate's attack, which can be situationally better for overall team damage. Technically, there's still the Thundering Fury, which gives electro damage bonus and aggravate reaction bonus. However, Kuki doesn't benefit as much from the skill cooldown reduction, and other electro DPSs will make better use of this, so it's a lower priority for her. For set combos, you can mix among 2-piece Thundering Fury and 2-piece EM sets, 2-piece Noblesse, or a 2-piece Emblem if you're lacking ER. Whether it's a full or combo set, prioritize which is most resin efficient for you. Substat quality is also a huge factor that can swing the favor towards a particular combo. Since she's not a traditional attack scaling character, Kuki really likes crit weapons instead. As long as they give crit stats or damage bonuses, whether from the substat or passive, then it'll help. Use whatever your best and unused weapon is. One important note is regarding the Harbinger of Dawn. Because of Kuki's inherent HP reduction mechanic, the weapon's passive is anti-synergistic with her. But despite the passive not working, the weapon's 46% crit damage substat is still very much helpful. Due to how cheap yet effective this is, it's an amazing value 3-star weapon. Alternative to crit weapons are EM weapons like Iron Sting or Freedom Sworn. If you have neither crit or EM options, or if your artifact stats are far from fulfilling her ER requirement, then an ER weapon is recommended to help take care of her ER needs. Now for her aggravate teams. I've mentioned a lot of variations regarding aggravate team building on previous videos, so I'll only mention the essential reminders here. I'll link those videos in the description. Kuki can be slotted in an aggravate or a spread team. On an aggravate team, your Dendro unit will ideally equip Noblesse or Instructor to buff your team's attack or EM. The attack buff on the Noblesse set doesn't benefit Kuki much, but it's more for her other attack scaling teammates. The Deepwood set doesn't help with aggravate damage since it only shreds Dendro resistance, while aggravate damage is electro damage. Then pair her with another electro DPS. A second electro unit with Kuki will make them battery one another on top of electro resonance's particle generation. reaction. Then the fourth slot will be a flex slot that is likely an Anemo VV holder or Zhongli to shred Electro resistance. Putting Archaic Petra on Zhongli will be his best build in this team. If you have neither an Anemo or Zhongli, then any unit that won't disrupt Aggravate and quicken reactions can help, like another Geo or Electro unit. But if you're in a spread team, this template will be 2 Dendro units, Kuki, and a flex slot. In this case, have 1 Dendro unit equip the Deepwood set since Dendro damage is your main source of damage. With Kuki having a 15-second cooldown on her burst, it's better to comp her with fellow teammates that have 15 seconds or less cooldowns to create a smoother rotation. One such sample team would be Kuki, Kole, Kazuha, and Fischl, who all can fit in a 15-second rotation cycle. But Kuki can still definitely be slotted in alongside units with longer cooldowns. You'll just want to be a bit more conscious of the timing of their cooldowns. Even if Kuki's role has been greatly improved, her HP draining mechanic still brings certain risks. You might find her accidentally dying because her HP stays very low. You can either bring an extra defensive option to help keep her alive, or just be conscious enough to avoid her getting hit. But despite that flaw, she's still undeniably a more cohesive alternative than our other Electro healer Dori, whether it's for healing, hyperblooming, or aggravating. Kuki's very streamlined role consolidation has given her a well-defined place in our team building options, and she will likely continue to be a relevant unit as more Dendro team possibilities emerge. So that's going to be all for this video, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all soon. Take care!